Winter nights were harsh, yet our grandparents managed to stay warm without relying on electric heaters. Their techniques were practical, low-tech, and extremely effective. These were not mere traditions. They were methods honed over decades, grounded in observation, material science, and necessity. For anyone interested in historical survival skills, modern preppers, or just appreciating how life once was, understanding these methods can be eye-opening. One of the first principles was layering. Beds weren't just a mattress and a sheet. They were constructed like a thermal system. Wool blankets, flannel sheets, and featherbeds created multiple insulating layers. Our grandparents often used a feather mattress or pad underneath, covered with wool blankets, and topped with flannel sheets. Wool was preferred because of its natural insulating properties and ability to retain heat even when slightly damp. For a practical modern application, anyone can replicate this by using a dense wool blanket beneath a lighter comforter and flannel sheets on top. Even if your house isn't insulated perfectly, this method traps body heat efficiently. Floor and wall drafts were a major source of cold in old homes. People placed their beds on risers or blocks to lift them off cold floors and added rugs or thick woven mats beneath. In some cases, they even used wooden slats with straw or hay stuffed underneath as a primitive thermal buffer. Today, you can apply this by placing a rug or thermal mat under your bed and adding a wall hanging or blanket behind the headboard to reduce heat loss from drafts. Heating the entire room was often impossible or inefficient, so our grandparents focused on heating the bed itself. Hot water bottles filled with boiling water, heated bricks wrapped in cloth, or even heated stones were placed under the covers for 10 to 15 minutes before bed. These retained warmth throughout the night. Modern equivalents include electric or gel-based heat packs, but the principle remains. Pre-warming the bed is far more energy efficient than heating the entire space. Sleeping arrangements weren't just social, they were functional. Couples often shared a bed to combine body heat, and in large families, children slept in the same room to conserve warmth. Even pets played a role. Cats and dogs were allowed in beds not only for companionship, but because their small body mass contributed noticeable warmth. Today, this principle translates to mindful placement of your bed near other heat sources or even sleeping with a partner or pet for shared body warmth, reducing reliance on electric heating. Night clothes weren't decorative. They were carefully chosen. Folks usually wore long underwear made of wool or flannel, thick socks, and caps or nightcaps as the standard. Covering the head was essential because, well, up to 30% of body heat escapes through the head. Modern sleepers can, adapt this by wearing thermal base layers, thick socks, and warm hats to bed during cold spells, pretty much replicating the same efficiency without needing central heating. Windows were a major source of heat loss. Curtains weren't just aesthetic, they were insulating. Multiple layers of heavy fabric were hung over windows at night to trap heat and reduce drafts. Sometimes blankets or quilts were tacked over windows for extra insulation. Back in the day, homes usually had wood stoves or fireplaces, but they didn't keep them running all night long. Folks made use of thermal mass by putting heavy furniture, brickwork, or even water containers near the stove or fireplace. These things would soak up heat during the day, and then, bit by bit, give it off through the night. Beds were always placed near walls that held onto heat, not shoved into drafty corners. Even now, just putting your bed near a brick or stone wall that gets warm from the sun during the day can help keep you cozy at night. It just goes to show, thermal mass is still a handy passive heating trick. To keep the warmth in, people would block drafts with door snakes, towels, or rolled-up blankets at the bottom of doors. Sometimes they'd even close off sleeping areas with makeshift partitions or curtains just to cut down on the amount of cold air that needed warming up. At the same time, though, they made sure there was still enough airflow to keep things from getting damp or causing condensation. These days, you can use draft stoppers, close off rooms you're not using at night, or even set up a tent-like space inside using heavy blankets to get the same effect. Natural materials were key for warmth back then. Featherbeds, wool, and cotton all did a better job of keeping folks warm than the synthetic stuff they had at the time. Heck, even straw mattresses weren't just for comfort. They trapped air and gave extra insulation. If you want to try these methods now, look for natural fibers in your bedding. Wool blankets, down comforters, cotton flannel sheets. Not only does it work just as well as it did back then, but it's also sustainable and chemical-free. Now, our grandparents didn't just wing it when it came to sleep. They took their time to get beds ready, pre-warm them, dressed right for the night, and even planned chores so the stove or fireplace would still be giving off a bit of heat come bedtime. They saw warmth as a whole system, not just a single fix. For folks today, especially preppers, you can do the same by syncing up your routines, heating, clothing, and bedding to get the most warmth without needing electricity. That's how you build a self-sufficient winter sleep strategy. These tricks weren't just smart, they were downright necessary. They let people get through the coldest nights in unheated rooms, all without modern gadgets. So, whether you're into history, prepping, or just curious about old-school survival, these methods give you real, proven ways to stay warm, and they really show just how inventive folks used to be. By using these techniques, layering your bedding, pre-warming the bed, making the most of body heat, wearing the right night clothes, insulating your windows, and using thermal mass, you can enjoy the same kind of warmth our grandparents did, all while cutting down on modern heating. Every little change makes a difference, and it just goes to show that survival and comfort come from good strategy, not just fancy gear. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Warfield Prepper Chronicles for more deep dives into historical survival skills, and share it with anyone else who loves history or prepping. Staying warm like our grandparents isn't just about comfort, it's about learning and using timeless know-how that still works even today.